Hey folks, welcome back to Powerful Stoic Habits. Have you ever thought what really goes through their mind when you vanish off the radar? I'm not talking about just pulling back a little. I'm talking about disappearing, completely removing yourself from their world like you never existed. Because here's the brutal truth, they've grown too. Used to you being there. They think they can treat you however they want, and you'll always stay. You've given them the comfort of always being available, of always being an option. But what happens when you decide enough is enough? Let's face it, you've been holding on to them like they were oxygen. But have they ever really treated you like they needed you to breathe? No, and that's because they got too comfortable. They started taking you for granted. But here's where everything changes when you vanish. When you stop showing up, when your calls stop coming through, and when your presence becomes just a memory in their rearview mirror. That's when they'll feel it. That's when they'll realize what they've lost. They never saw it coming 1 minute. They had all the control. And the next, it's ripped from their hands and they're left with nothing but their own doubts and insecurities. Your sudden absence forces them into a world where your energy, your presence, your attention are no longer theirs to claim, and trust me. They feel it. It hits harder than any argument, any conversation, any plea for them to see your worth, because when you disappear, they don't just miss you. They crave you. That's the power of silence. That's the impact of stepping away when they least expect it. You become the mystery. They can't solve the void. They can't fill. And in that space of uncertainty, you're not the one losing sleep. They are. You see, your constant availability has made you predictable in their eyes. They put you in a box thinking they know exactly how to handle you, how to string you along. But here's the gut punch. You're done being predictable. You're done playing by their rules when you walk away. When you vanish without warning, they're left with one terrifying question. What if I lost them for good? It's like taking the floor out from under them. Their confidence gone, their ego shattered, they're left second, guessing every move they made, every word they spoke, every time they pushed you aside, thinking you'd always be there to pick up the pieces. Now all they have is regret, as our wise friend once said. Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. This quote resonates deeply because it speaks to the very core of human nature. Our tendency to overlook the things we think will always be there when you disappear from their life. It's not just your presence they miss. It's the realization that they took you for granted. The silence you leave behind forces them to face a harsh truth. They never valued you until they no longer had access to you. That absence, it becomes the loudest wake-up call, echoing through every corner of their mind, reminding them that they lost something they didn't even realize they needed. But here's the thing, this isn't about revenge or manipulation. This is about taking back your power, about showing them that you are not someone they can afford to lose. And when you disappear, it's not just a game changer. It's a soul shaker. They feel it in ways they never expected because they never truly understood your value until you were no longer in their life. Remember this, people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. It's human nature, but that doesn't mean you have to stick around and wait for them to catch up. Your worth isn't something that should be discovered only in your absence, but sometimes that's the only way to make them understand what they've taken for granted. Sometimes you have to vanish to remind them that you're irreplaceable. Picture this. You've been trying to attract someone new, or maybe the spark in your relationship is flickering out. You've given them your time, your energy, your attention, but it's like talking to a wall. They're distant, distracted acting. Like you're an afterthought. It hurts, doesn't it? But here's the reality. Check you're doing all the work. They've grown comfortable in the idea that you'll always be there, that you'll keep giving without expecting anything in return. And that's where you flip the script. Imagine pulling back, cutting off that endless supply of attention. They wake up one day and you're gone. No more calls, no more texts, no more bending to their whims. That's when it hits them. You were the one who made the effort. And now the absence of your energy is louder than anything they've ever felt. Suddenly, they're not so confident. They're scrambling, wondering what happened, because for the first time, they feel what it's like to miss you. You hold the power now. So here's my challenge to you. Step away. Let them feel the cold reality of life without you. And when they start reaching out, trying to pull you back into their orbit, you'll know one thing for sure. You are the one who holds the power now. Drop the phrase, "I accept the challenge," in the comments. If you're ready to take control of your story, if you're ready to stop chasing and let them realize just what they lost when you disappeared. Let's dive into the 9 things they'll feel when you simply disappear. Believe me, this is something they never saw coming, and it's going to shake them in ways they didn't expect. You see, when you pull away and vanish from their life, it's not just a small blip on their radar, it's a seismic shift. This isn't about just giving them space. It's about creating an emptiness they never thought they'd feel. You become the silence in their head, the missing piece they can't ignore. Trust me, they'll feel it in every corner of their mind, and that's when the real game changes. That's when they start feeling the pull towards you. The pull they never expected, the very absence they took for granted, now haunts them. It's like a magnet. They can't resist drawing them back to the space you once filled. They start wondering where you are, what you're doing, and why they didn't notice your value until it was gone. The power shift is undeniable. You've become the mystery, the missing energy they crave. And here's the kicker. The more you stay away, the stronger that pull. B becomes you are no longer chasing. They will be the one chasing you. So stay with me and hit the like button under this video to help it reach more people like you who need to reclaim their power. Because believe me, you're not the only one who needs this message. There are countless others stuck in the same cycle waiting for that wake-up call. Let's break it together. Rejection number 1, the sting of rejection. You vanish, and what's the first thing they feel? Rejection. Not just any rejection, the kind that hits deep, the kind that lingers long after they realize you're gone. Let's start with the cold reality. They never thought it would come to this. They never expected you to be the one to walk away. They were too comfortable with the idea that you'd always be there waiting, hoping for a change that would never come. But now it's their world that's shaken. In this rejection, it feels like a punch they never saw coming. When you disappear, they feel rejected in a way that chips away at their ego, whether it's someone new you were trying to attract or someone from an old relationship that's grown stale. The sting hits just as hard at first. They might pretend it doesn't bother them, act cool and different, but inside it's a different story. That feeling of being left behind, of suddenly no longer having control, cuts deeper than they'd ever admit now. Imagine this. You've been trying to attract someone new. You've shown interest, you've put in the effort, you've made it clear you were available. They, on the other hand, kept you at a distance. Maybe they entertained your attention, but never fully reciprocated. You were always the one putting yourself out there, and they knew it, so they got comfortable. They assumed you'd always be there circling around waiting for their next move. But here's where everything changes. You disappear. You stop reaching out. You pull your energy back entirely. Suddenly, they feel the weight of your absence. It's a rejection they weren't ready for. They start to wonder what went wrong. Were they too aloof? Did they miss their chance? The sting of being left behind GS at them, and they start questioning themselves in ways they never did when you were around. And here's the kicker. You're not there to comfort them, to ease their doubts, or to offer any explanations. You've left them alone to sit with their own fears, their own insecurities, and it burns. Now let's shift the scene to an old relationship, one that's been hanging on by a thread. Maybe you've been trying to rekindle a spark that's long faded, or maybe you've been holding on because you didn't want to be the one to walk away. But in the back of your mind, you know it's over. They've grown distant, they're cold, and they treat your presence like an obligation. So what happens when you finally decide to disappear? At first, they might feel relief thinking you've just given them space. But as days go by and you're nowhere to be found, that relief quickly turns into a knowing sense of rejection. Suddenly, they realize they've lost you. The sting sets in as they recognize that you're no longer theirs to take for granted. They may not have valued you when you were there, but now in your absence, it's the rejection that forces them to confront what they've lost. A quote that speaks perfectly to this feeling comes from Steve Maraboli. The most painful thing is losing yourself in the process of loving someone too much and forgetting that you are special too in both scenarios. Whether it's someone new or someone from your past, they took you for granted. They forgot how special you are. And now that you've walked away, that sting of rejection is a direct consequence of them losing sight of your value. But here's the hard truth. This moment of rejection is not about them. It's about you. Reclaiming your power because, let's be honest, you've been afraid to walk away for too long. You feared that if you disappeared, they'd forget about you or replace you. That fear has been holding you hostage, keeping you stuck in a loop where you constantly give more than you receive. But now that you've pulled away, you realize that fear was just an illusion. What you're doing at this point is not running away or giving up. It's letting go of the need to prove your worth to someone who should have seen it all along. The sting of rejection that they feel is simply a reflection of what happens when they finally realize you're not theirs to keep. And here's what you need to remind yourself. You are not here to chase. You are not here to be taken for granted. You are the prize to keep yourself grounded. In this moment of clarity, repeat this affirmation. I am enough as I am, and I will never beg for anyone to see my worth. Let that sink in. You don't need to chase validation from someone who couldn't appreciate you when you were standing right in front of them. You're not disappearing to manipulate or play games. You're stepping back because you've realized you deserve more. Now let's take it to the comments once and for all. If you're ready to step into your power, if you're done with being an option, I want you to write these words. I'm done begging. Write it, own it, and let the world know. You're not here to chase anyone's approval. You deserve better, and now it's time. Time for them to feel what it's like without you and folks. This is just the first thing they face. There are 8 more powerful realizations coming their way. So stay tight with me because the journey isn't over yet. Before you take this step and disappear, you need to understand exactly how it unfolds and what it will do to them. Trust me, every part of this process will shift the dynamic completely. Number 2, the emptiness of missing something after the sting of rejection. The next thing they'll experience is the emptiness of missing something missing. You at first, they might try to shake off the rejection, convincing themselves they're fine without you. They may even put on a brave face, pretending they're unaffected. But deep down, something is gnawing at them. Something they can't ignore, the void your absence has left behind. When you were in their life, they took your presence for granted. You were always there, always giving, always offering your energy, time, and care. But now there's a gaping hole where you used to be, and it's slowly eating away at them. This isn't just about the loss of someone to talk to or spend time with. It's the deeper realization that they miss the comfort, the security, and the stability you brought to their world. Imagine you've been trying to attract someone new. You've been showing up, making time for them, putting in the effort to show you're interested. They, on the other hand, may have kept you at arm's length, not fully engaging because they always thought you'd be there. They didn't see the value of what you brought into their life. But now that you've disappeared, they're left feeling the emptiness of not having you around. Every moment of silence, every day that passes without a text or call from you, feels heavier and more profound than they expected. They start noticing the little things, how much better their day was when they heard from you, how much more exciting their life seemed when you were part of it. Now in your absence, all those small details add up, and the void becomes undeniable in an old relationship. The feeling is even more intense. You've been there through the highs and lows, always present, always the one holding the relationship together. Maybe they grew complacent, thinking that no matter what, you'd always stick around. But now that you've disappeared, they realize how much of their life was built around you. The things they once found comforting, the text goodnight, the plans for the weekend, the shared laughter are now painful reminders of what they've lost. This emptiness hits them in unexpected ways. They'll notice it when something reminds them of you, like a song, a place, or a moment that you used to share. They'll feel it in the silence where your voice used to be. The absence of your presence is a constant reminder of the value you added to their life. And now they can't escape the feeling that something vital's missing. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. That quote perfectly captures the depth of what they're feeling right now. They didn't appreciate what they had when it was right in front of them. And now they're left grasping at memories, trying to fill the void. But no matter how hard they try, nothing quite compares to having you back. The human mind doesn't handle loss. Well, when something or someone we care about is no longer available, our minds obsess over it, trying to find ways to cope with the sudden change. And that's exactly what they're doing now. They'll try to distract themselves, maybe by hanging out with friends, picking up new hobbies, or even trying to find someone else, but it won't work. The emptiness is too real, too persistent. No matter what they do, they can't shake the feeling that someone important is missing. You see, the brain craves what it doesn't have. the more they try to move on. The more they'll find themselves drawn back to the thought of you. They'll start comparing everyone they meet to you. No one will quite match the connection they had with you. And that's when the realization hits. You weren't just someone who filled their time. You were someone who mattered, someone who made a difference in their life. And now that you're gone, nothing seems to fit, right? What are you doing during this time? You're not sitting around waiting for them to realize what they've lost. You've already moved on, focusing on yourself, reclaiming your power. You're not giving them any more of your energy. And that's why they feel the loss so deeply. You're no longer their safety net. The person they can rely on whenever they need attention or validation, they're on their own now. And it's starting to sink in at this point. You may feel tempted to reach out to check on them, to see if they've realized what they've lost. But here's the thing, don't let them sit with that emptiness. Let them feel the full weight of missing you. This is their wake-up call, and if you step in too soon, they'll never fully appreciate the depth of your value to keep yourself grounded during this time. Repeat this affirmation, I am whole without them. You don't need their validation to feel complete. You don't need their attention to feel valued. You are enough on your own, and their emptiness is not your burden to carry. So as they sit with the emptiness of missing, you don't be surprised when they start reaching out, trying to reconnect. But remember, you hold the power now. If they come back, it's on your terms and they will come back. Because the emptiness of missing you is a void. They won't be able to fill with anyone else. And here's the second affirmation to keep you grounded at this point. I am whole without them. Go ahead and write it for once and for all. In the comments, this is your declaration that you don't need their attention or validation to feel complete. You are whole and their absence only highlights your strength. Number 3, an overwhelming curiosity. Curiosity after they feel the sting of rejection and the emptiness of missing you. The next thing that creeps into their mind is an overwhelming curiosity. At first, they may try to ignore it, pretending they don't care that you've disappeared. But the truth is, curiosity eats away at them. In silence, they start wondering what you're doing, who you're spending your time with, and why you're no longer reaching out. Their mind begins to race with endless questions. Why did you pull away? Did you find someone else? Are you better off without them? They become consumed by thoughts of where you are, what you're doing, and how you could just vanish so easily. This curiosity grows with each passing day, and it turns into an obsession. They can't stop thinking about you in the case of someone new. Their curiosity is rooted in confusion. You were once chasing them, giving them your attention, and now you're a ghost. They can't figure out why you've stopped, and it drives them crazy. They wonder if they've lost the upper hand, and the mystery of your absence becomes a puzzle. They're desperate to solve every time they pick up their phone and see no messages from you. It stings a little deeper, fueling their need to understand what's going on in your world, in an old relationship. It's even more intense. They used to know everything about you, your routines, your habits, your life. Now they're left in the dark, and that lack of information is unbearable. They wonder who's filling the space you left behind. Is someone else making you smile? Or did you finally decide to move on to a better, brighter chapter without them? This overwhelming curiosity doesn't just hit in idle moments. It follows them throughout the day when they wake up and don't see a message from you. Their mind starts to spiral when they scroll through social media and see nothing from you. It fuels the fire even more. They'll start checking in on you indirectly, maybe through mutual friends or subtle social media stalking. But no matter how much they dig, they won't find what they're looking for because you're not giving them any clues. What you're doing during this time is living your life focusing on yourself and embracing the space you've created. You're no longer tethered to their expectations or their need for attention, and that's what drives them crazy. The more mysterious you become, the more their curiosity grows. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. At this point, I am the mystery they can't solve. Go ahead and write it in the comments to seal it once and for all. You are no longer the open book they could read at their convenience. You've become the puzzle that's out of reach, and trust me, they won't be able to resist trying to figure you out. Number 4, deep self-reflection. Self-reflection after they're consumed by the overwhelming curiosity of where you went and what you're doing. Something deeper begins to stir self-reflection. When you vanish from their life, it forces them to look inward, and that's when they start questioning themselves in ways they never did before. At first, they might have shrugged off your absence, but as time goes on and they sit with the emptiness, their mind turns inward. Did I push them away? Was I too distant? These questions begin to haunt them, creating a whirlwind of doubt and regret. They replay interactions, scrutinizing moments where they could have acted differently, where they should have shown you more attention or treated you with more respect for someone new. This reflection is jarring. They might not have realized how much they overlooked you, how little they appreciated your efforts to connect now that you've disappeared. They're left wondering if they missed their chance. Was I too cold? Did I ignore someone who could have been special? That self-reflection is uncomfortable but necessary. As they begin to realize they were the reason you pulled away, they'll start to see that your distance is a response to their lack of effort, and that realization stings harder than they expected in an old relationship. The self-reflection cuts even deeper. They start to ask themselves why they allowed the relationship to grow stale. They think about the moments when you were there, making an effort, trying to reignite the spark, and they begin to understand how much they took for granted. Every memory becomes a reminder of the ways they neglected to show up. And now with you gone, they're left to reflect on their own failings. Why didn't I appreciate them when I had the chance? Why didn't I give more? This process of deep self-reflection isn't about pity. It's about facing the truth of their own behavior. They can no longer blame you for walking away because the reality is clear. Their actions or lack of them drove you to leave. And this is where they start to see the cracks in their own character. It's not just about losing you. It's about confronting the person they've become and how they failed to be what you needed. What you're doing during this time is staying strong, continuing to focus on yourself, and refusing to fall back into old patterns. Their self-reflection is not your responsibility. It's their own journey of growth and understanding. You've already done the work of pulling back and reclaiming your power. Now it's up to them to face the consequences of their actions and decide whether they're willing to make the changes necessary to deserve your presence again. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded at this point, I reflect. But I don't regret, go ahead and write it in the comments. Sealing your commitment to self-growth. You've moved forward, and while they're reflecting, you're evolving into someone stronger, more aware, and more powerful than ever before. Number 5, the urge to pursue you after the urge to pursue you. Deep self-reflection kicks in. They begin to feel a powerful and undeniable urge to pursue you. This is where the tables truly turn. The person who once felt so in control now feels the pull to chase after what they lost. And it's not just a fleeting thought, it becomes a growing need, a burning desire to regain the connection they took for granted at first. First, they may have convinced themselves they didn't need you, that they were fine without your presence in their life. But now they've gone through rejection, missing your energy, wrestling with curiosity and confronting their own shortcomings. The emptiness they feel and the realization of what they've lost sparks a drive they can't ignore. The urge to reach out to fix things, to close the distance between you and them, becomes overwhelming when you're trying to attract someone new. This is the moment they realize they might have lost something special. They think back to how you were always there, showing interest, putting in effort, being consistent. Now that's gone, and they can't help but feel the need to pull you back into their orbit. They might start by subtly liking your posts, sending a random message to test the waters, or even asking mutual friends about you. Each small step is a way of reeling you back in, trying to regain the connection they didn't value before. In an old relationship, this urge is even more intense. They can't stop thinking about the times you tried to make things work, the dinners, the conversations, the efforts you made to keep the relationship alive. Now in your absence, they see how much you did for them, and the realization hits hard. They want that back. They want you back. The need to pursue you becomes their primary focus, and they'll go out of their way to try to win you over. Again, the irony, you've pulled away, and now they're the one doing the chasing. The roles have reversed, and they're left with the uncomfortable realization that they no longer have control, what once felt like certainty. Knowing you were always there, always available, has dissolved into fear and doubt. The more they feel the loss of you, the stronger their urge becomes to reach out to fix what's broken and to make things right. But here's where you hold your power. You've already made the decision to step back, and now you get to decide whether their pursuit is worth your time. This isn't about playing games. It's about standing in your own value and knowing that you no longer need to chase anyone. If they come back, it's on your terms, not theirs, as they scramble to reconnect. Remind yourself of this. You are the prize, not the option they are chasing, because they finally see what you've always known you're worth pursuing. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded at this point, I attract, I don't chase. Write it in the comments once and for all, and let it be known you've shifted the dynamic and now they feel the urge to pursue you. But remember, you're in control now, and whether they come back or not is entirely up to you. Number 6, the battle between relief and the battle between relief and regret. Regret as they navigate the growing urge to pursue you. They experience a conflicting inner battle, a tug of war between two powerful emotions, relief and regret. At first, when you disappeared from their life, they may have felt a temporary sense of relief. They might have thought finally some space. They may have even convinced themselves that your absence was what they needed to move on, to find someone else, or to regain their independence. But that relief doesn't last. Soon regret begins to creep in. It starts subtly with small thoughts like, maybe I should have tried harder, or maybe I was too distant over time. These thoughts multiply, and before long, regret overshadows any relief they once felt. They begin to see how wrong they were to assume you would always be there, and they're forced to face the reality that they let something valuable slip through their fingers for someone new. The regret feels like they missed out on a rare opportunity. At first, they might have enjoyed their space, feeling relieved that they didn't have to deal with the pressure of your attention. But now they're left wondering what could have been if they'd given you a real chance. They regret not investing in you when they had the chance to. In an old relationship, the regret runs deeper. They might have initially felt like a weight was lifted off their shoulders when you pulled away. But as the days go by, the emptiness grows. The memories flood back, and they begin to realize how much they took for granted. The relief they felt at first is quickly replaced by the regret of losing someone who truly cared for them. This battle between relief and regret isn't just an emotional struggle, it's a wake-up call. They realize that what they thought was freedom was actually just the absence of something meaningful. And now they're left with nothing but the heavy burden of knowing they didn't appreciate you when they had the chance. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded at this point. I am more than enough. Go ahead and write it in the comments to remind yourself that you are worth more than the temporary relief they once felt. Let their regret fuel your strength, knowing that you are no longer an option, but a treasure. They let slip away. Number 7, the desire to play the game, play the game. As regret begins to settle and something else stirs within them, the desire to play the game. This is their desperate attempt to regain some control, to test the waters and see if they can manipulate the situation to get you back instead of facing their emotions head. They resort to tactics hoping to lure you back without admitting their mistakes. But here's the thing, they've already lost the upper hand. They'll try to act indifferent, maybe even distant, thinking that by mirroring your behavior, they can spark your interest again. It's a classic move, acting like they don't care, hoping that you'll come running back. They might start posting on social media, showing off a life that seems full and exciting. Without you subtly trying to make you jealous, they might even flirt with others in front of you, thinking it will get under your skin. But here's where the game backfires. You're not playing anymore. You've stepped back, reclaimed your power, and are no longer the one chasing their desire to play the game. Only reveals their insecurity, because while they're trying to make you react, you're already beyond it. You see the game for what it is, a desperate attempt to regain control over a situation they can no longer handle for someone new. This game might feel like a test. They'll pretend they're unaffected by your absence, hoping you'll be the one to break the silence. But as they try to play it cool, the cracks in their confidence begin to show. They want you to reach out first, but every day that goes by without a word from you deepens their frustration. In an old relationship, the games get even trickier. They might start engaging in hot and cold behavior, giving you mixed signals to see if you'll bite. But this time, you're not falling for it. Their desire to play games is a last-ditch effort to regain the control they once had. But you've outgrown the need for a validation from their tricks. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. I no longer play games. Go ahead and write it in the comments, solidifying your stance. Let them play all they want. You've already won by stepping out of the game. Number 8. The crushing weight of silence. The crushing weight of silence. After all their games, after the push and pull, they're left with something they didn't anticipate. The crushing weight of silence. Silence can be louder than words. And your absence, it's deafening. They thought they could handle it at first, thought they could wait you out, but now the quiet is starting to break them down. There's no more back and forth, no more excuses, no more distractions, just silence, and it's suffocating. They begin to feel the heavy void. Your presence once filled every moment without a text, a call, or even a casual encounter becomes a reminder of what they've lost. This silence forces them to sit with their own thoughts, and the lack of communication becomes an unspoken testament to the distance between you. They're not just missing the sound of your voice, they're haunted by the absence of the connection you shared. And every day that goes by without a word from you feels heavier than the last for some. Someone knew this silence is unbearable. They're used to you being the one who keeps things moving forward, the one who makes the effort. But now that you've pulled back completely, they're left with nothing but their own thoughts. The silence becomes a mirror reflecting their own indecision and lack of effort, and they can't escape it in an old relationship. The weight of silence is even more profound. They're accustomed to the familiar rhythms of your relationship ship, the late night talks, the plans you used to make, even the arguments that once filled the space. Now there's nothing the quiet forces them to confront the reality of life without you, and it's not something they can easily shake off. They're left to stew in their own regret, hearing the echo of every unspoken word, every missed opportunity, every moment they took you for granted. The crushing weight of silence serves as a powerful reminder you're no longer there to fill the void, and the longer it stretches, the more unbearable it becomes for them. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. My silence speaks volumes. Go ahead and write it in the comments. Let this silence be your power while they're grappling with the weight of it. You're standing tall, knowing that your absence has become louder than anything you could have said. Number 9, the fear that brings them crawling, the fear that brings them back after enduring the crushing weight of silence. Something inevitable happens. Their fear takes over. This is the fear that you've moved on, that they've lost you for good. And it's this fear that brings them crawling back. It's no longer about pride games or ego. Now it's about survival. They can't stand the thought of a life without you, and the realization that they may have missed their chance hits them like a ton of bricks. The fear of losing you for good is paralyzing. It consumes their thoughts day and night. They start to wonder if someone else has taken their place, if you found happiness and fulfillment elsewhere. This fear jabs at them, creating anxiety and regret so deep that it forces them to act. The idea of you being gone forever shakes them to their core, and suddenly nothing else matters but getting you back. In the case of someone new, this fear grows out of their realization that they underestimated you. They thought they could take their time, that you'd always be an option. But now the silence has stretched too long, and the fear that someone else has captured your attention makes them desperate. They'll start reaching out, sending messages, and even showing up unexpectedly, trying to win you back because they can't bear the thought of losing you for someone in an old relationship. The fear is even more profound. They thought they knew you well, thought they could predict your moves, but now faced with the reality of your absence, they panic. They realize that all the times they pushed you away, all the moments they took you for granted, have led to your silence, your independence, and that terrifies them. They'll do whatever it takes to make things right, to pull you back into their life, even if it means swallowing their pride and coming to you on their knees. But here's the most important part: when they come crawling back, it's on your terms. You're no longer the one begging for attention or validation. You've reclaimed your power, and now they're the ones desperate to be in your life. This is where the dynamic shifts completely, and they realize just how valuable you are. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. I am worth the chase. Go ahead and write it in the comments. Let their fear be the catalyst for your strength. They're crawling back because they know what they lost, and now it's up to you to decide if they deserve another chance. If this video resonated with you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your power lies in your ability to walk away and let them feel your absence. Don't forget to keep it up in the comments if you're ready to hold your ground and let them realize what they've lost. Remember, you are the prize. Stay strong, stay grounded, and always know your worth. They'll come back crawling, but only if you let them. Until next time, stay empowered.